Hello, I'm Tony Emilady. And thanks, Julia, for asking me to share. I bumped into Julia at the UK convention, and she said, "Would you do the chair up?" And I thought it was across the road. Anyway, we were working it out. I said, "Don't worry, I'll pretend I'm looking for the dealer," because I always found a dealer. And I did get here, and I got here early, and I thought, this can't be right. And the Google Maps told me and everything. And all I saw was a solicitor's, and I just saw an estate, and then I saw a community hall. I thought it must be in there, but there was no one here. So then I walked round the corner and I saw a cop, and I asked him, and he sent me over to Islington Green. And then I'm thinking, this ain't right. And then I rang Julie, and then she's on Instant Messenger, and that doesn't always pick up, does it, on when you're outside? So then I rang John Mason. He said to send you all his love. And then this lady was by the door, and I thought, that's got to be the NA meeting. So I got here, but it was really like, I timed it right so I could get here relaxed and chilled, and it all worked out in the end. Anyway, so that was that. I've never been there before, as you can gather that. I've had to make some pointers because it's a topic. I can do an experience, strength and hope share, and I can do my story share, and I can do what's going on for me from the floor share, but it's a really good share for me at the moment. I was asked to choose a selection, and I chose that one. And why we stay, why I stay is, I'll give you one example. Was I kept relapsing in my early recovery, and at the time I thought I was doing really well because I wasn't using grade A drugs. But I just thought I don't know if it was arrogance that I had, or like this will be good to get me back on my feet, and I can, I've no desire to be really clean. I just know that with grade A drugs, my life's falling apart, and it's falling apart for my family as well. And so I came into NA, and I thought I'll take the best bits out of it. But I did think they're lovely people, but it's a bit extreme, like not being able to have a drink, or not to take some uppers every now and then, or have a spliff. And of course that got me into a lot of trouble because the program was working here, and I was doing it my way. So to cut a long story short, so I used in the first 90 days, and nobody said, look, you're bad for NA, you're bad for our image. But I did feel that inside. I thought, I'm an embarrassment to them. It's like, it would be like, welcome to NA, welcome to the meeting, and this is Tony, our drunk in the corner. But the drunk in the corner kept attending meetings. So that was the underlying statement. I knew that I'd messed up my life, and that NA was giving me a chance of another life. And then when I got to a day clean, finally, my home group, which is still my home group, it was like England had scored the winning goal. They were all so really, really happy for me, because people were like, this guy doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it our way, he doesn't want to listen. And people were suggesting treatment, and again, that's why I thought, I'm bad for, I don't want to go to treatment. And so I might have got clean on a resentment because, I thought they want me to go to AA. And then I said to a guy in the kitchen after, he said, well done, good on you, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, but do you think maybe in 10 years I can have a drink? And he said, well, why don't you see what happens in 10 years? Now, when you're a day clean, 10 years is a lifetime away. And I'm not putting it on him, but what happened was that was a secret I kept deep inside of me, that if I can get to 10 years, I might be able to drink a cultured bottle of wine down by the beach, that kind of fantasy that I had. And it got to 9.5 years clean. A girl that 9 years clean. A girl that I would have married, but she fell out of love with me and ended it. I had my dream job that I'd always been into. It was around the music business with a big fuck-off studio. Sorry, I shouldn't swear on recording. We had a big studio in Fulham. We got bussed. And so I was doing NA, I was doing service, I was doing sponsor stuff, I was doing therapy, but I never told anyone my little secret of when I get to 9.5, when I get to 10 years, I might be able to drink again. Because I thought, that's a long time not to have a drink. And my dad was an Irishman, and he kind of used to say to me every Christmas, "But can't you have a pint?" You know, and I said, "No, Dad, I can't. Why don't you have a pint?" And I said, "Because I'll end up like I was before." And he went, "Oh, no, I don't have a drink," you know. So it was like that, and so I declared. I said, you know, I've got to start sharing this. You know what I mean? I'm in a bit of trouble there. I'm trying to get over this woman. We've lost the business, and I was still a young man then, and for me, NA was the wonderment, and it was like rebuilding my life and doing my dream job, and meeting a girl that I would have, you know, settled down with, and so what happened from there onwards was I did go into myself a little bit, because it was a situation where she still is in recovery, but she lives abroad now. But a mate of mine ended up with her, so that was really hard for me to take that, But I respected him, because he came around to see me and tell me, and I thought, you know, I'm glad he did. I didn't want to hear it from anyone else, because sometimes in NA it can become like an EastEnders soap opera if you're in a relationship. You know that one, if you've split up with someone and she goes out for a fag and then a guy follows her out and your head's gone, and then the next thing he's driving her to meetings, you know. So I really went into myself for quite a while, and I was gutted about the studio, and we ended up owing a lot of money to the bank and everything, and I stayed in NA because I didn't come in, like I said at the beginning, I didn't come in with a treatment centre comrades. I came in on my own. I did detoxes, and they said, we give you a choice. When you leave here, you've got a choice, but we don't do therapy, we don't do counselling, we don't do that kind of stuff. And it was HNI-NA that helped me. It was an old mental hospital called Tooting Bec, which I had to sign into voluntarily, and I thought, but I'm not insane. I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. So I just stuck to my home group for ages. Now I'm in NA now a long time. It's not a brag or a boast. It's a way of life for me now. But in that time, I'm now on my third round of friends in early recovery, because a lot of the people I came round with, some either stopped going to meetings, or they went to the mothership AA, or some of them started social drinking, and that was difficult for me because we were really tight. And I thought, but we're all in this together. And I thought, each horses for courses, each to their own. They're still my friends. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, there was a little gang of friends that I hung out with, and they were getting more and more toxic. And one by one, they all used. And I'm really glad I stuck to my program and my sponsor and my thing, that I was doing. So one of the first batch of the new friends that I made in NA, one of them now is one of my best friends. He's a lovely man. He had an aneurysm recently, and we nearly lost him, and thank God he got through it, and he closed the UK convention. And then another friend said, but you're like so many years clean, you've got to get out and get to more meetings, people need to hear you or hear yours. And it was really good for me. It was almost like the guy was guiding me, because I'd be at the back of the meeting. It was like I was that guy kicking a tin can against the wall, feeling sorry for myself, So it kind of it kept NA fresh for me. It was like another lease of new experiences and new people, and then as time went by. So why I stay, right? This is it. So sometimes I go to a meeting and I'm older now, you know what I mean? And I get a bit grumpy, or I get a bit tired, or I'll listen to newcomers' problems, and there's a little voice saying, "Oh, you're way beyond that now, Tone." And that's the fucking voice I have to watch, because I realise it's not, for me, addiction isn't what I put in me. It's to do with, I don't know, whether it's trauma, or I had it long before I took drugs. I always had this little voice, and it isn't my friend. You know, it really isn't. So, so like I said, I lost my dream job. I never really went for social acceptability, but I must admit, when the job was going good and I had that girl on my arm, I was giving it the big one, because I think it's really easy to be spiritual when you've got a wallet full of money and you've got someone on your arm who adores you, you know what I mean? But when work's tight and you're on your own and stuff like that, and you start comparing yourself, and I compared myself to a lot of people that I came around with who, who've done really, really well in life. And I'm doing really well in life. This is the whole thing. And I'm lucky to still be here. I stated, so that I can't get help here if I don't give it back. I know that, you know what I mean? So it's just about, that's why I stay. One of my second sponsor, he emigrated to America, and for a long time I didn't have a sponsor. I did have a sponsor. I was being sponsored by a madman, my head. And I got into a lot of trouble with that, and I ended up in another relationship that was quite toxic, and I thought, I'm losing it here, you know what I mean? I don't want to take years to get over this woman like the last one. So I went and got myself a sponsor. And he passed away clean, but he gave me a little mantra of, he said, look, all I want you to do is, because he said, you're in NA, you do the program, you do service. He said, but look, I'll never tell you what to do, but he said, the little thing I'd like you to do is to, speak your truth, mind your own business and have fun. And I thought, that's really good. Speak my truth, mind my own business and have fun. I'm still working on minding my own business. That's a work in progress. Right? Step 6 has come up for me a lot recently in regards to jealousy, and it's around my work. I work freelance, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to begrudge anyone that earns a living or has to put food on the table. So my head's been playing up with that. And so what's been happening as a result of that is I've been getting to a lot of meetings, because if I'm not working and there's no maintenance at home, if I can be bothered to do it, I'm just listening to that, and it's like, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, this is not good. And then I've got a new neighbour that moved in who's got mental health issues, so he's quite loud when he paces up and down the stairs, and that kind of interferes with my serenity, my peace and quiet time. And I get really I get negative. I really get negative. My head starts telling me I'm a loser. And I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be alive, you know what I mean? As well as being clean. But that's what I'm combating. For me, that's what the addiction is. The negative messages that I give my head on my self-worth. It's not a therapy session. I can't go too deep, but I know that a lot of stuff wasn't right at home when I was a child, and we weren't quite the Waltons. My dad did have a gambling addiction. He arrested it, but he never went and sought help. He just knew he was losing his wife and kids. That's what happened to some of my friends who got clean. They came into NA, they got clean, they got their wives and their families back, and they left NA. It wasn't for everyone, but for me it has been. So what I have to deal with really is my shame and guilt. I've been working on it for years and years and years, but how can I forget my past when I'm in a negative mood? That's how I feel sometimes. And sometimes it comes up about how I behaved and how I conducted myself. All I wanted to get in when I came into NA was to get my family back, and I did get them back. And my mother had me for 22 years clean, and it was the best 22 years of my life. And then my dad had me for 26 years, and it was the best 26 years with him. So I'm left with my siblings now, and I'm really grateful for that. But since November, it has been relentless, the amount of deaths and illness with friends of mine in NA and family members and family members and NA members getting sick. And I'm finding it's not about me, and I'm there for these people, but it does the pain of it, because you just want everyone to be like carrying on and be, you know, and have the love and happiness and the day-to-day problems. You don't want them really poorly and ill and then losing people. It's I know it's the cycle of life stuff, but I've been sharing about it recently, and a good friend of ours is quite poorly at the moment. He's struggling, and but all I'm saying, all I really want right now is, how about a big break, a big chunk of a break, not every month, you know? So that's why I stay, because I get overwhelmed and I find it really daunting when life gets scary and painful. And I need you guys to, you know, support me as I can give my experience and I can support people. I don't know what else, any other pointers. Like I said, I'm working step 6, and I've taken on a sponsee recently that I couldn't take on because I didn't have the space, and it was really hard at first, and I'm really warming to him now. I'm not saying I didn't like him, I just thought I'm hitting burnout here and I'm taking sponsees on, and this guy in particular was going through a similar crisis that I've been going through, so it's kind of rubbing off on each other, you know what I mean? And that's keeping me connected, and that's why I'm still here, because I need to keep connected to this. When it gets too much, sponsor, steps, and when it gets too much than that, check in with therapist. That's how I do it. That's what keeps me clean and what keeps me here. And if I'm still around, if it's going to be the 4th wave of new people coming in, the 5th wave, and I'm the old boy in the corner, go to Tony, so be it. It's a blessing, isn't it? You know what I mean? I'm lucky to have made it. I wasn't gonna. I got clean at 27. I wasn't gonna make 30 years of age, and I know that. And I wasn't in a 27-year-old rock star club. I was a hopeless junkie. So it's good to be clean. Thanks for asking me. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.